Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we continue the story of Tiểu San and Hoai, a story that is not loud or flashy, yet deep enough to touch the quietest corners of the heart. There are no dramatic twists, no grand promises proclaimed before a crowd. Instead, there are emotions placed where they belong, carefully preserved through understanding and maturity after everything they have been through. In the previous episode, we witnessed the moment when both families finally resolved their misunderstandings and accepted Trang and Toàn after months of tension. From opposition born out of difficult circumstances to sincere apologies spoken through choked silence, everything closed with the word forgiveness just before the new year. That single word did more than dissolve surface conflicts. It quietly untied the knots that had weighed heavily on each person's heart for a long time. Tiểu San did not appear in that conversation. She simply heard the news and smiled softly. It was a gentle smile, not an emotional outburst, not one filled with tears, just a quiet sense of peace spreading within her. That smile was not for the event itself, nor for any particular moment, but for the journey everyone had walked. Some joys do not need to be expressed aloud. They only need to be steady enough for someone to breathe out freely, without lingering burdens. She understood clearly how many sleepless nights Trang must have endured to reach that acceptance. Nights when the line between hope and despair was so thin that a single sentence could shake the heart. Standing between love and family, between personal desire and responsibility, Tiểu San had lived in that space before. She knew what it felt like to fear making the wrong choice, to fear hurting loved ones, to fear not being strong enough to protect what she believed was right. So when she saw Trang walk confidently into the ceremony, respected and acknowledged in her rightful place, Tiểu San felt no jealousy. She simply felt her heart grow calmer. That calmness was like a gentle breeze after many sweltering days. It did not completely change the scenery, but it was enough to let one realize that the air had shifted. She did not speak much about it, nor did she revisit the past. Everyone has their own road to walk, and she understood that another person's peace does not take anything away from her. Sometimes it even reminds her of the value of patience and compassion. The new episode begins with an ordinary morning. No special event marked on the calendar, no important appointment that made the heart race. Just a day like any other, with sunlight filtering through the curtains and the steady sound of traffic outside echoing the familiar rhythm of life. Tiểu San woke up earlier than usual. She worked more swiftly, more decisively, as if something inside her was guiding her with a different rhythm. It was not urgency nor pressure, just a gentle sense of initiative. She prepared everything neatly, completing each task with full focus. From time to time, her eyes drifted unconsciously toward the clock, not out of impatience, but because a subtle anticipation lingered within her. A kind of waiting that did not exhaust, but instead made every moment of the day feel clearer. She noticed herself paying attention to smaller details than usual. The way light shifted across the table, the sound of a spoon touching a coffee cup, the cool sensation of water while washing her hands. These seemingly ordinary things suddenly felt more meaningful, as if she were truly living in each moment rather than merely passing through them. In the afternoon, she stopped by a familiar shop on an old street. That street had seen her walk with a heavy heart many times, as well as moments when she tried to appear calm while her thoughts churned inside. Today her steps were lighter. She chose a simple yet elegant dress. Nothing elaborate, nothing dazzling, just enough to highlight her natural gentleness. Standing before the mirror, she suddenly realized it had been a long time since she had shown such kindness to herself. Before, she often worried about others' feelings, about expectations around her, about how strong she needed to be so as not to become a burden. But in that moment, looking at her reflection, she did not see a woman trying to please anyone. She saw herself, with the experiences she had lived through, with healed scars, with eyes no longer clouded by uncertainty. Not to satisfy anyone, not for any special occasion, simply because she wanted to value herself. That self-respect was not loud and did not need to be announced. It showed in the way she adjusted her hair, in the smile she gave her reflection, in her choice to wear what made her comfortable instead of what others might expect. And from that small act of initiative, she felt herself drawing closer to the peaceful version of herself she had once searched for. That evening, Hai arrived to pick her up right on time. No flowers, no rehearsed words. Just the way his eyes lingered on her a little longer as she stepped out. That look did not carry exaggerated surprise, nor did it need empty compliments. It was simply acknowledgement, as if he understood that she was a little different today, not because of her appearance, but because of the quiet confidence radiating from within. In that moment, they both understood they were exactly where they belonged. Not because circumstances tied them together, not because of promises that had to be kept, but because there was a harmony between them that had been tested by time. They did not need to say it aloud. Each other's presence was already the answer. They had dinner at a small restaurant bathed in warm yellow light. The space was not too crowded, and the background music was just enough to soften the lingering thoughts of a long day. They talked about ordinary things, work, small incidents from the day, little details that only those who truly care would remember. Hai shared a situation he had encountered. Tieu San listened and gently offered her thoughts. There were no heated debates, no attempts to prove who was right or wrong. Just two people communicating with respect. Between their words were long pauses, yet none felt awkward. Those silences were not empty. They were filled with reassurance. Reassurance that there was no need to fill every space with words. Reassurance that even in silence, the other person remained. Reassurance that after all the trials they had faced, they were no longer searching for perfection, only for sincerity that was enough. And within that reassurance, their story continued. Quietly yet steadily, like the even heartbeat of a heart that has learned how to find its balance. The next morning, Tieu San received Trang and Tone's wedding invitation. The envelope was elegant in a soft, neutral tone, her name written neatly and carefully across the front. She gently ran her fingers along the edge before opening it, as if afraid of creasing something fragile. The two names printed side by side were clear and straightforward, like a statement that needed no further explanation. No more distance. No more silent ellipses from the past. Just Trang and Tone, standing next to each other in a choice now fully accepted by both families. She held the invitation for a long time, her eyes resting on each formal line of text. Not because she was reading slowly, but because she was feeling it. Feeling the journey those two names had taken to appear together on such a simple yet meaningful wedding card. Then she smiled. A deeper smile than the day before. Not showy, not radiant, but warm enough to spread gently through her chest, as if something within her had also been affirmed, that sincere efforts, in the end, always find a place to anchor. She placed the card on the table, yet her gaze lingered on it for a few more seconds. In the quiet of the morning, she could hear her own breathing clearly. No more restlessness. No more circling thoughts. Just a silent empathy for Trang, the woman who once wavered between love and responsibility, and who could now step into a new chapter fully supported by both sides. When Hai arrived, she handed him the invitation without introduction. He took it, opened it, and read each line slowly. His eyes did not skim. They paused at small details, the date, the venue, the way the families were addressed. Perhaps he understood that this card was not merely an invitation, but the result of a long process of overcoming misunderstanding and prejudice. Then he looked at her, his voice low and gentle. "Let's prepare a gift." The sentence was not a question, nor a suggestion requiring discussion. It felt more like a shared understanding already in place, that they would attend, offer their blessings, and be present with all the sincerity they had. Tieu San nodded. No further words were needed. They did not deliberate much. No grand gestures. They chose a gift, selected flowers, and wrote a simple congratulatory message together. In the store they stood side by side among countless options, yet it did not take them long to decide. The gift did not need to be expensive, just appropriate. The flowers did not need to be extravagant, just fresh and gently colored. When writing the message, Tiểu San held the pen slightly longer than usual. She weighed each word carefully, as if every sentence needed to be placed exactly where it belonged. Not because she feared making a mistake, but because she wanted the words to truly matter. Hai stood beside her, occasionally leaning in to read. He did not edit or suggest changes, he simply remained there. And that presence made her handwriting steadier. What they did was quiet, yet in every choice and every line written, there was a clear sincerity. Not the kind expressed through flowery language, but the kind built from understanding. They did not see the wedding as a social obligation, but as a milestone worthy of respect. The wedding day arrived under soft sunlight. The sky was clear, not too bright, as if everything were perfectly measured for a new beginning. The decorations were tasteful, not overly dazzling, but warm enough to embrace the space. Laughter and greetings blended into a lively yet unhurried rhythm. Trang walked with a calmness she had never shown before. No trace remained of the months of anxiety. No more hesitant glances whenever family was mentioned. Today, each of her steps was steady. The wedding dress did not transform her into someone different. It simply highlighted the maturity already present in her eyes. Tone stood waiting at the front, his gaze fixed only on her. He did not glance to either side, nor was he distracted by the surrounding noise. That look alone was enough to show that everything that had happened before was merely a prelude to this moment. As Trang approached, the distance between them closed, not only in space, but in the worries that had once stood between them. Amid applause and blessings, Tiểu San stood at just the right distance. Not close enough to become the center, not far enough to miss a single moment. She observed everything with steady eyes. She saw joy shining in both families' faces, saw relief replacing the tension that once lingered. Hai stood beside her. He did not speak much, but occasionally his gaze would brush against hers, silently asking, "Are you okay?" And each time she nodded gently. Not to reassure him, but because she truly was okay. There was no sadness in her heart, no regret, only lightness. That lightness was not emptiness, it was release at the right moment. Light because she no longer compared. Light because she no longer placed herself inside what had already passed. Light because she understood that everyone has their own rhythm, their own milestones, and what matters is not how fast or slow one moves, but whether one walks in alignment with their own choice. She watched Trang and Tone exchange their vows, listening as their words rose into the light-filled space. Those promises did not need to be grand, only strong enough for the two of them to believe in each other. And in that moment, Tiểu San realized that happiness is not always something we hold in our hands. Sometimes, it is something we can smile at while witnessing. The sunlight tilted gently, casting a soft golden hue across every face. Tiểu San took a deep breath. She did not think about the past, nor did she rush toward the future. She simply stood there, between applause and music within the joy of others, and felt that peace was very near. Not loud but complete. As the ceremony neared its end, Trang tossed the bridal bouquet into the air amid cheerful shouts and laughter. Arms reached upward, feet shuffled lightly in eager anticipation. An instinctive excitement tied to a tradition filled with meaning. The atmosphere instantly grew livelier, as if everyone wanted to claim a small piece of luck for themselves. Tiểu San quietly stepped back, standing at the edge of the crowd. She did not push forward, nor did she try to make herself seen. Her retreat was gentle, almost unconscious, like a habit formed long ago. The habit of standing behind, observing and smiling rather than stepping into the center of anything. She expected nothing for herself, not because she did not believe in happiness, but because she had learned not to place hope in symbols. To her, the bouquet was only a beautiful ritual. Whatever truly belonged to her, if it existed, would arrive in another way. Her eyes followed the bouquet's arc as it soared upward. The petals spun softly in the air, catching the late afternoon sunlight, creating a suspended moment between laughter and the excited voices calling out below. She stood still, her hands resting naturally at her sides, neither reaching up nor stepping away. But Hai was different. He stepped forward just enough. Not hurried, not hesitant. He did not jostle or compete. It was simply a calm, deliberate step, like the way he always did things. Quiet yet intentional. His gaze did not wander toward the crowd around him. It remained focused on the descending bouquet. When it fell, it landed neatly in his hands. It was not a desperate grab, nor a stroke of blind luck. It seemed to settle there as though it had always been meant to. Laughter rose louder around him. A few playful remarks were tossed his way, curious glances turning toward him. The moment could easily have become a light-hearted joke, a playful story of mild embarrassment before the crowd. But he did not keep it for himself. He turned and walked toward Tiểu San. His steps were neither fast nor showy, yet clear enough that the surrounding chatter gradually softened into a natural hush of attention. His eyes were calm but resolute, not impulsive, not challenging, simply thoughtful, chosen. Tiểu San still stood at the edge, not yet understanding what was happening. When she saw him approaching, bouquet in hand, her heart skipped a beat. Not because of the ritual itself, but because she recognized that his eyes held no trace of teasing. He stopped in front of her. The distance between them closed into a space just intimate enough within the waiting crowd. "I think this bouquet belongs to you." His voice was not loud, but it was clear. No emphasis, no explanation. Just a simple sentence carrying a straightforward affirmation. It was not a public promise, not a display, only an offering given because he wished to give it. Her hand trembled slightly as she accepted it. The soft touch of petals against her skin made her suddenly aware of the moment she was standing in. Not the shy embarrassment of youth, not the innocent fluster of a girl being noticed for the first time, but the emotion of someone who had once been hurt, who had once closed her heart out of fear, and was now being chosen again. She had told herself she did not need symbols. She had believed that present peace was enough. Yet as the bouquet rested in her hands, as his eyes remained steady and calm, she realized there are things we neither need to chase nor reject. We only need the courage to receive them. Applause resumed around them, but it sounded distant. In that brief instant, her world narrowed until only he remained before her. No proposal, no ring, no grand vow, just a simple act, yet powerful enough to say he was not standing outside her life. He stepped forward and chose her amid a crowd full of laughter. She looked at him, her gaze no longer evasive as before. There was emotion in her eyes, but not weakness. There was hesitation, but not retreat. The wall she had built, out of fear of being hurt again, out of fear of repeating the past, seemed to soften under his quiet certainty. She did not speak right away. She only tightened her hold on the bouquet, as if to be sure she was not imagining it. Hai did not rush her. He simply stood there, waiting with the familiar patience she had come to know. That moment did not immediately change their lives. There was no declaration, no instant decision, but it marked something more important. She did not step back. She did not refuse. She accepted, even with trembling hands, even with a cautious heart. Amid lingering laughter, beneath sunlight still gently washing over the wedding lawn, Tiểu San suddenly understood that happiness does not always arrive through grand promises. Sometimes it comes in a single steady step forward, a bouquet placed into your hands, and a heart brave enough to open again after so many days of being closed. That night, after everyone had left and the lively atmosphere of the celebration slowly faded into the distance, only quiet streets remained beneath the soft yellow glow of streetlights. Tiểu San and Hai chose to walk along a familiar road. They had walked this path many times before, on the most ordinary days, without wedding flowers, without music, without rounds of congratulatory applause. Tonight was no different. Nothing special had been arranged. Just a high, clear sky, a gentle coolness in the air after a long day, and the sound of their footsteps moving side by side along the pavement. No grand promises. No distant futures painted in bright colors. They did not speak of forever, nor did they mention specific milestones. After witnessing someone else's vows that day, they did not feel the need to repeat such words for themselves. Sometimes the more sacred something is, the more it needs to be kept in silence. Only two hands held tightly together. That handhold was not meant to show anyone. There were no curious glances around them, no teasing laughter or applause. It was simply a connection. His hand was warm and steady. Hers was still slightly cool from the night breeze, yet she did not pull away. She did not grip too tightly, nor did she loosen her hold. She held on just enough, like the way one holds something that is slowly becoming important. Tieu San slowed her steps slightly, not because she was tired, but because she wanted to feel more clearly the rhythm of walking beside him. Some moments seem small, yet they make one realize they are standing at a different turning point than before. She had once walked roads with caution, reminding herself not to place too much trust in emotion. But tonight she did not avoid it. In Tieu San's heart, something was beginning to sprout. It was not loud, nor did it make her flustered like the first stirrings of youth. It did not burst into an immediate decision. It was only a small green shoot, pushing gently through layers of soil once hardened by hurt and fear. Not yet named, not hurried to grow. She did not force herself to define it. There was no need to rush toward conclusions about the future. But she realized she no longer wanted to turn her back on that feeling. She was no longer trying to deny it or explain it away with excessive caution. Her guardedness had once protected her from pain, but it had also kept her standing outside beautiful things. And tonight, for the first time in a long while, she was not standing outside. Hai did not ask what she was thinking. Occasionally, he glanced at her, as if to be sure she was still there, still walking beside him. Between them, too many words were unnecessary. After a long day, silence became a space where both of them could breathe softly and listen to themselves. Behind them, the wedding lights were gradually dimming. A complete wedding for Trang and Toàn, where happiness had taken clear shape, been named, witnessed, and blessed. It was an ending point for someone else's challenging journey. Ahead of Tieu San, a road was slowly opening. It was not lined with flowers, nor did it come with guarantees. It was not dazzling like stage lights, nor accompanied by swelling music. But it carried his presence beside her. It held parallel footsteps. It held hands that did not let go. She looked forward, where the streetlights stretched into a warm ribbon of light. The future was not clearly defined, but it was bright enough to dispel the feeling of being lost. She did not know where that road would lead, but for the first time she was not afraid to keep walking. And in that moment, between the quiet of the night and the steadying rhythm of her heartbeat, Tieu San realized something very simple. She was worthy too. Worthy of a gaze without hesitation. Worthy of a hand extended without calculation. Worthy of a peaceful happiness. Not grand, but enough to keep her heart from closing again. There was no need to prove anything to anyone. No need to compare herself with any other story. Only the courage to trust that what she was feeling was real, and brave enough not to turn away from it. The night passed as gently as it had begun. Two figures slowly disappeared at the end of the familiar road, carrying with them something still unnamed, yet quietly growing. Stay tuned for the next episode to follow where Tieu San and Hai's journey will lead.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang làm video về câu chuyện của Tiểu San. Hôm nay là đám cưới của Trang và Toàn nha mọi người. Giờ thì mình mới đang chọn cho video một cái tiêu đề biệt mọi người nhé.